Transformers Skybound is without a doubt some of the greatest pieces of Transformers media ever released. I don't think I need to sing its praises. It's been a massively praised comic book run that exudes so much heart in its character writing, artwork, and mature storytelling. It's a much darker Transformers story, but not one that's tied down by cynicism and constant suffering. It displays a great balance of optimism in a bleak and war-torn world that manages to be both somber, yet uplifting and inspiring. These characters are presented as we all know and love in an art style that we all know and love, but it doesn't feel foreign like other depictions of these characters. The story also manages to test these characters in new and interesting ways that we haven't really seen before. Optimus Prime is still a humble leader with a good amount of badass moments, but this version is a bit younger and portrays him as the same kind, gentle giant that we all know and love with an optimistic worldview. His worldview gets tested, however, and despite suffering and losing so much in this story, his struggles don't feel cheap or weighed down by a cynical need to make the character suffer. Rather, the character takes his hardships and still moves forward with a much more mature view of optimism in times of war. The story is also fantastic at showing the degradation that war can have on an individual and their psyche. The main characters are obviously robots, but here they feel much more human than ever before. This fantastic 24 comic run was led by Danny Warren Johnson, Jorge Corona, and Mike Spicer. Now, Danny Warren Johnson is an immensely talented writer and artist who truly understood as to why these characters are beloved. He crafted a very innovative story that's in the same spirit of classic interpretations of these characters. And Jorge Corona took over as the main artist going forward, starting with issue 7. Mike Spicer is the main colorist as well, and both are immensely gifted artists whose art style leaps off the page with beautiful colors and dynamic, action-packed artwork that has made Transformers Skybound such a visual success. Regardless of what happens in the near future, these first 24 issues are some of the best Transformers ever created, and everyone involved deserves nothing but praise for delivering such a bold and innovative series. With recent news, however, that Danny Warren Johnson is leaving Transformers to pursue other projects and his own personal mental health, it was announced not too long ago that Robert Kirkman will be taking over as the main writer for the series going forward, as well as artist Dan Mora doing the main art. This is a new era of Transformers Skybound, and it will officially be starting with issue 25 that is set to release on October 8th of this year. Now, I've seen both sides on the fence with this announcement. Some are excited and yet some are very worried. And I hate to admit it, but I am a bit more on the fence about Robert Kirkman, specifically taking over as lead writer. In this video, I like to explain my personal worries and what the overall future can hold for Transformers Skybound moving forward. Now, at first I was very hesitant that Jorge Corona was leaving as main artist because I think his artistic vision of Transformers is the absolute pinnacle of what these characters should look like. His art of these characters is how I've always imagined them in my mind, with this beautifully bold and bright coloring by Mike Spicer. I love how rugged and unstable the Energon weapons are drawn as well, giving off how powerful and unstable this energy can be. It's so beautiful and so many little details are just clashing all at once so beautifully across the pages of these fight scenes. And while I am very sad to see him go, Dan Mora's art is slowly growing on me from what I've seen so far. I think he gets how iconic this style has become, and while he's certainly doing his own thing, he's clearly trying to pay homage as well. Now, specifically about Robert Kirkman, there's no denying he's an immensely influential writer. His work on Invincible is great, and from what I've read so far, there's no denying that this man has talent. His overall writing for Invincible is pretty much characterized by character-driven storytelling with solid, long-term narrative consistency. Invincible's main draw, in my eyes, is how it subverts the traditional superhero genre, creating a juxtaposition that enhances its themes and loss of innocence and an overall search for identity. He does this while subverting said traditional superhero tropes by showing realistic consequences and exploring many more complex moral dilemmas. And while this is great for a world like Invincible, I really don't see it working so well for the Transformers universe. Let me explain. I'm sure many of you have seen Robert Kirkman's infamous stance on Superman, basically calling the character lame and unrealistic.
We're not having that discussion.
Oh, we're not? Okay, good. Because that discussion usually ends with people on the internet mad at me because I say that Superman is lame and that Omni-Man would easily beat Superman. So I didn't want to say that again and get people mad at me all over again, even though it's true.
Now, everyone is allowed to have their own opinions, but this has always has rubbed me the wrong way because his comments feel more out of spite than anything else, making me question if he even understands the character at all. And after reading Invincible, my concerns were definitely validated. Omni-Man is the anti-Superman, and so is Mark Grayson. It's clear that a humble, kind-hearted man with godlike powers is very unrealistic in his eyes, and it shows with his writing for Mark Grayson. He's a kind and courageous kid who at the end of the day wants to do the right thing, but to compensate for this, he gets put through the ringer over and over and over to the point of absurdity sometimes. Now, you might be asking, well, what does this have to do with Transformers? And see, that's the thing, because if a man who clearly despises Superman and a character like Superman is in charge of a character like Superman, then he clearly must have some kind of contempt for Optimus Prime, who's basically just robot Superman. Don't believe me? Both characters put their humility first before being a leader. Both characters are headstrong and great leaders when they need to be, but they are also warm, gentle, have tender souls that make them compassionate towards their comrades and enemies, and both have suffered and struggled a good amount. And yet, despite everything, they still choose to keep a positive and optimistic worldview, even through chaos and uncertainty. When Robert Kirkman openly hates Superman, and yes, while I'm sure most of it is just messing around with his fans, it leaves me worried when he's about to become the main writer for what's my personal favorite interpretation of Optimus Prime. The reason I adore Danny Warren Johnson's Optimus Prime is because despite his many struggles, despite the clear trauma and choices that he's made as a leader that have also alienated him from his fellow comrades, despite all the war, the death, the fear, he remains humble, strong, and optimistic through all of it. Danny Warren Johnson's Optimus Prime can best be described as a noble father trying to do the right thing, presenting a deeply emotional and vulnerable take on this iconic character. The vulnerability is what truly touches my soul when I read these comics. One of my favorite moments is when Optimus Prime crushes Shockwave's head and immediately feels remorse and regret. Alita saying, "Now that's the Optimus Prime I remember," and Optimus Prime in a gentle and horrified tone states that no, that's not who he is anymore. He isn't like this, and he had no choice in the matter. It's that inherent humility that gravitates me towards his character. He's strong when he needs to be, but also gentle at heart, like a big teddy bear. This is what I believe the character is all about, going back to Peter Cullen's inspiration for Optimus Prime's voice, comparing him to his older brother, who told him when going to audition for Optimus,
"Peter, if you're gonna be a hero, be a real hero. Don't be a Hollywood hero type with all the BS and all the yelling and screaming and trying to be tough. Be strong enough to be gentle."
To me, this is what the character has always been. This is Optimus Prime. It's always been the heart of this character, and I am really doubtful that Robert Kirkman will see this through. Now, I really do not like to be negative when it comes to circumstances like this. I've seen a ton of negativity surrounding this decision to have Robert Kirkman lead in general, and it's really tiring. I'm just very worried that Robert Kirkman will misinterpret the character and see him in a sense similar to how he views Superman. Characters he's written, such as Omni-Man and Invincible, are solid characters in their own way, but at the end of the day, they're a critique of Superman. A critique of a character like Optimus Prime, where optimism and kindness are outdated, having to face the harsh realities of life, where the world is cruel and evil and there's no use in staying positive when you could practically die at any moment. Why stay positive in a world that's out to get you? Mark has a ton of multiversal variants that become tyrannical leaders, killing just to kill because he's immensely powerful. He's also a tad psychotic. Our Mark is the exception, not the rule. And while this works fine for this type of story, I have to personally admit I find this absolutely boring. This evil Superman trope has been done to death. But I digress. We live in an age where negativity thrives and humility is outdated. Social media makes it seem like you need to be this tough, no-nonsense Hollywood hero who is cold, emotionless, calculated, and selfish. Why be kind to people when you can be a jerk? Why help people when you gotta look after yourself? You gotta grind, you gotta be on the grind after all, right? These are hard times after all, every man for himself, right? This is an Optimus Prime. Not even close. You see this mindset everywhere, and you see it a ton in Robert Kirkman's writing. Humility and kindness are punished in these type of stories, where the quote-unquote real world gets shown for how it really is, and there's consequences for showing the slightest bit of compassion. Now, to be fair, there's a ton of suffering in Skybound's Transformers, but it isn't pushed to an absurd level like it is in something like Invincible, where Mark becomes jaded and cynical over the course of the story, or at least for what I've seen in the show. Optimus refuses to let that negativity in, keeping his hopeful worldview, but with much more maturity. A great example of what I'm talking about can be seen when Spike Witwicky is hospitalized after being shot and the Decepticons attack the hospital. They destroy the electrical generator, which in turn threatens all the patient lives. Optimus Prime faces a profound moral choice that tests his compassion. Despite the matrix of leadership having a sort of finite power in the story, Optimus chooses to use his most sacred and powerful artifact to restart the hospital's electrical system, saving everyone inside. This demonstrates an enormous level of love and sacrifice by prioritizing human life above everything else. This choice, however, directly leads to dire consequences, which forces Spike's dad to sacrifice himself to recharge the matrix of leadership to save Optimus's life. This can be seen as a very immature act from Optimus Prime, thinking with his heart rather than his mind. And yet, even after this tragic loss that resulted from his compassionate decision, Optimus doesn't become jaded or overly pitiful. He doesn't change any of his approaches. Rather, he thanks Spike's father for the opportunity to make a better tomorrow. He understood the value of human life and decided to take on the duty of caring for them. This perfectly shows how humility and compassion guide him to choose the right decision over anything else. In a story like Invincible, this type of action would most likely be seen as unbearably naive. However, in Danny Warren Johnson's writing, we can see the true heart of having such a selfless personality and seeing the importance of it. Optimus has a sense of young naivety, but it isn't presented in such a negative light. Rather, this story sees the beauty of naivety and how one's own blind optimism can keep them going strong with nothing but a pure will to protect those you love. There's many moments like this throughout the story, and it's a testament to Danny Warren Johnson's talent, being able to balance the heart of the character with the toll that war can take on your soul. There's no denying that Robert Kirkman loves Transformers. I mean, we have to take his word for it at this point. And despite my many doubts, I will choose to stay cautiously optimistic about this new direction for Skybound Transformers. While he isn't the first person I'd pick to continue this series, I also want to point out that Invincible isn't Transformers, and there's a possibility that he does understand this character and what makes him beloved. His Superman comments were a while ago, so who knows? Maybe he's changed his views. Maybe he understands what makes characters like Optimus Prime and Superman work. I just fear that his main direction will have an Optimus Prime who continues to suffer and starts to look a little bit more like Michael Bay's version of the character. And that's a fear that will persist until October 8th. I want to remain positive. The new art direction looks beautiful, and there's no denying there's heart and passion in these pages so far. While I will immensely miss Danny Warren Johnson and Jorge Corona, they gave us some of the greatest stories, character, and artwork ever put to the pages of a comic book. Their legacy will continue to remain, and they were no doubt a fantastic team. It's up to Robert Kirkman now to keep that legacy going as much as possible. I am just hoping and praying that when it comes to Optimus Prime, Robert Kirkman has the strength to be gentle.